I'm in Toronto right now,
Right.
and my friends. I'm just like, dude, what? How are you still doing the exact same thing we were doing when we were 14?
And
Like literally, I'm like, what are you doing? Like your time management is horrible. Your ability to comprehend things outside of this local little circle it's frustrating.
well, there's that, but there's also the point where they think they're old, and they will start acting old, and they will start looking old, and you'll be going, what am I doing different? Why do I, you know what I mean? Has it gotten to that point at all yet?
Well, most of them are black, so they don't actually look that old.
I know that's, you know what? I used to compliment, if I'd meet a black woman, I would say, "Oh my gosh, it's not fair." I go, "You guys just don't age," and you
Mhm.
can't. I can't say that now.
You sure can.
Uh,
Listen, I'm one of those believers in intent, and people really need to focus on the intent behind the words, not the words. Because when your intention is that your intention is to be complimentary, then that's how it should be. That's how it should be read. It shouldn't be read any other way. But then I talk about it in my new act. I'm talking about like, you know, the difference between tone and intent. And I said, if you were to hand me a transcript of everything I said tonight and didn't tell me it was me, I would cancel myself.
well, that's what I'm saying. If you close your eyes and listen to your act, and you don't have an accent except for the
Well,
accent that
yeah,
we're all familiar with,
right. I was
um,
born in Canada, so you kind of don't get that.
yeah, right. And then that is funny, whenever I joke about that whenever I'm in another country with a dummy, the dummy says that, well, their accent. I go, they don't have an accent. We have an accent. So anyway, but my point is, if an American or a Canadian would close their eyes, you sound like a white dude making fun of other races, right?
Hilarious.
Just the same way that you say if you just saw it written, you'd be canceled. So it's so crazy to me, but I get it. I understand it. The seeming license that anybody other than somebody like me tends to have, because you get away with so much, but it's all legit. It's all funny stuff, and everybody in the place is laughing. Has there been any blowback? Have you had to pull back at all in the last few
No,
years?
I'll tell you why you won't either. You won't either have to do that either, because the people that are coming to see you are coming to see that, and the people that have a problem with what you're doing, we're never going to come and see you,
Right.
and we're never going. So people that have a problem with that kind of stuff just are not going to contact you. They're not going to come to your shows. They already know what you do, and if they have a problem with it, then it's some sort of witch hunt for you at that point.
But then it becomes frustrating online because everybody has a voice now, and
that's irritating.
Yeah, you will be trashed to no end as being this horrible, horrible person. It's like, have you been to my show? Have you, instead of taking these two lines out of context, do you know what came before and after and what else I talked about and picked on? Do you not understand? Yeah. This is like, okay, I've never thought of this before. This is like tasting a spoonful of salt and going, well, that cake is horrible.
Yeah.
It's
you put the salt and the sugar beside each other.
Yeah, you mix the stuff together, and then it's a whole thing. You can't just taste the salt and think that the cake is horrible. I'm going to keep that analogy.
The egg is raw because it's not been mixed.
That's right. Okay, so then now I'm curious about and forgive me if this is a little bit trite, but I'm curious about the Apu thing, because the Apu thing, it's like, I mean, where do you stand on this? Because you are Indian, you poke fun at your own heritage. So where do you stand on this whole thing?
I'm actually in the documentary, the Apu documentary.
Oh, you are? Well, I need to watch it. I've just heard about it.
Was it called The Problem with Apu?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So here's the thing. Growing up, we had nobody to look at on TV.
Right.
Like when I started doing stand-up, I started in '89, and there was nobody. I was the first Indian guy.
Right.
And so growing up, if I really wanted to feel like I connected with somebody on TV, and I'm not making this up, I connected with Eric Estrada because he looked Indian as hell. Okay. And in Canada, we didn't have Mexican people. So I'm like, wow, look at this Indian guy on Chips. And then Paul Rodriguez on Hey Pablo. And I was like, oh man, we're doing it. We're really, and they're like, I was like, Mom, what's a Mexican?
Oh no, it's funny.
What part of India is Mexicans from?
That's really funny.
And yeah, so we had, we just had that to look at. And then it wasn't until I was a little older that I realized, oh my God. And then Apu came on The Simpsons. And I was like, we'll take him, I guess. I mean, we got nothing else.
Well, I did watch a couple of clips, and it was, I don't think you were in the group. There was a group of, were they all comics or all actors in comics, people in show business? And they said, I guess the question was asked, does Apu offend you? And everybody raised their hand, yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's a younger generation. I can't remember what I said in that, but I must have said something similar to what I just said now, because we really didn't have anybody. It was like, yeah, it was offensive because only reason it was offensive was more because people would use it against you. People would call you Apu, or people would call you, what was Johnny Quest's Haji? They would call you that.
That was the question they asked. Have you all been called Apu? And they all went, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if that's the hardest part of your life, get the fuck over it already. You know what I mean? It's just like, grow up. I got bullied. Like, I got real racism I dealt with growing up. So Apu was the least of my worries. When I'm 4 or 5 years old and I'm a cute little 4 or 5 year old boy, and a grown white man sprays me with a hose and spits on me or calls me names, or when I go to the park, I get kicked or punched for no reason. That's the problem. That's what was happening to me. So Apu was like, whatever. It's a cartoon. It's not real.
That's what was happening to you. Is that right?
Yeah, in the 70s. And in Canada in the 70s was not so nice to Indian people. We were very... It was very unfavorable to be Indian in Canada at that time.
What was there a neighborhood, or were you just an outlier? Your family in the house?
No, there wasn't a big influx of. Well, there might have been, but we were spread out. And where I ended up growing up, we moved to in like 1974, 1975, Brampton. At the time was just blue collar white people and working class black people. So. I hung around the black kids because they never did anything to me. They never bothered me. They never bullied me. So I was like, oh, okay, I'm safe here. And I would see white people, and I would generally turn around because I'm like, no, I'm not going to get kicked or punched for no reason right now. Mm-hmm. And now the ironic part is my hometown is like 98% Indian.
Yeah, and that's where you did that special, right?
Oh, I did it in Toronto.
Oh, but they talked about talked about, how do you pronounce it?
Brampton.
They talked about Brampton being your hometown. So how far is Brampton from Toronto? Is it
like 20 minutes?
Okay.
North. 20 minutes northwest.
Right.
But I mean, listen, if I'm a real soft piece of work, I'm going to let that affect me to today and be like, white people are evil. This is all bad. But it was a question of these new immigrants came to the country and they didn't know what to do. So they panicked, and that's how they reached out and they lashed out. Now there's, you can't live in the past with, oh, this is how they are. It's like, it's just how they were. And when new immigrants come in, they do it to those immigrants. Now, so it's just kind of like almost human nature, I guess.
Right. Well, getting back to the performing part of it, it is kind of a conundrum for me because you can't please everybody all the time. And there is a point where you go, well, just screw it. I'm just going to entertain my crowd and the people that I love. But
exactly.
But at the same time, I still like to bring in new fans. And there are things that I refuse to take out of my act, and I will keep them in there just because I've done them, or I've had those characters for so long and people love them. And if I took them out, that would almost be worse.
Yes. You would be trying to appeal to people that were never going to be appealed to.
Right. And I think...
And you're going to lose your core because the core, they're with you because they're like, we know this is our guy. We know what we're going to get. He's not going to offend us because we know him.
Right. Yeah. But on the other hand, you do know as a performer that line with your crowd that you want to push to the edge of, and the closer you get to the edge, the harder they're laughing. But then there's that point where suddenly... now a bunch of them are not laughing because you did go too far, but that's that magic little line you have to go up to, right?
Yeah, you got to figure it out, and you know where it is when you're doing it. And there'll be some nights where you can't go as far as you did the night before, and then there'll be other nights where you can go past the line.
Right. And is there one incident where can you recall anything where you just went too far and went, "Dow, that wasn't good," or it actually did get you into trouble? Any of those really good stories?
Well, Okay, so one night I asked, there was a couple in the audience, and I said, I'm talking to them, and I'm like, do you have any kids? And they go, yeah, we had three. And I go, what do you mean we had three? Well,
Oh no.
one died, right? And then it just put a whole funk in the audience, right?
Oh man.
And then I go, don't try and fuck up my show with your dead kid.
Oh no.
And it worked.
It worked. Oh.
It worked because it was so extreme to say something like that, and they even laughed.
Oh no, that's
And
brilliant.
I was like, oh my God, thank goodness for that, because I was scared to shit.
That's like, brilliant and horrible.
Oh, man, you're gonna fuck up my whole show.
I just turned red at that.